And joining us for more on the Prime Minister's visit to Japan and China is Ambassador Pinag Ranjan Chakravarti. Ambassador, welcome to DD India News Hour. It's Prime Minister Modi's first visit to China in 8 years. It comes after a long period of strife. How do you view it?
Well, one thing is that the media is concentrating on the bilateral aspect rather than the SCO, which is natural because the SCO has been around for a long time.
Right.
And I'm afraid it has nothing great to show in terms of outcomes, although it has met regularly and in summits. So all the eyes are focused on basically the bilateral meeting between PM Modi and President Xi Jinping, and also the fact that the Russian President Putin will also be there. So people are speculating a lot about what's going to happen. Anyway, this is a great opportunity. It's a good platform for Prime Minister Modi to meet the Chinese president and carry forward the sort of not warming, but I would say normalization of ties and getting back to the status quo that we had prior to Galwan. And so clearly, I think this is also a result of the current, flux in the international situation, where the American president, Donald Trump, has decided that he would launch a tariff war against the whole world, actually, and then watch how many people, fall at his feet and do deals with him. So that's the way he has seen it. He's upset because he feels that, or somebody has actually told him or convinced him that countries that enjoy, favorable trade balance with the U.S. must be targeted. And India is one of them because we do have a favorable trade balance. Of course, China is another. And then, of course, he thought that perhaps in his view or somewhere, he thought that India is the weak link in the chain, and so he also decided that he would slap more tariffs because we buy Indian oil and Russian oil, and which of course they are happy to buy after India recycles it into petroleum products. So I think this is the background to which this summit is taking place. I don't say that it was. I don't want to say that Trump's tariffs have actually, triggered this. I think the India-China, normalization had started earlier. Even at the summit in Kazan.
Would you call it a reset in India-China ties, Ambassador?
I think a lot of people are saying that, a reset. As I use the word normalization of the status quo.
True.
What we had with China before Galwan, which is what we have been saying all the time.
Right.
And reset is another word, but then reset where? That's the point. Reset post status quo or pre-status quo. So I think reset can be applied, but I would prefer to use the word
normalization. Fair enough.
Normalize status quo before Galwan.
Fair enough. Ambassador, as you say, all eyes are on the bilaterals, no doubt, but I'd like us to focus on the SCO for the purposes of this discussion on this broadcast. Now, how do you analyze the evolution of the SCO? It started out as the Shanghai Five way back in 1996. Today, it has 10 members and many more dialogue partners. But some would say that, unlike, say, the BRICS, which has a very clear mandate and an economic underpinning to it, the SCO does not seem to have an identity of its own, is sometimes derisively called an Asian NATO. Shouldn't SCO have a clearer vision and purpose?
Yes, of course, but don't forget that it was a Chinese-led initiative.
Right.
So China has been, sort of moving the pieces there to get what it wants out of this organization. And it has not always helped India, I must say, because on the terrorism issue, for example,
right.
I think our defense minister at the defense ministers summit refused to sign the joint communique, and because it tended to pander to the Pakistani position
And expose
So
the double standards as well.
Indeed, absolutely. So China has been using sometimes to protect Pakistan's terrorism, I'm afraid to say, which it has done even in the UN. So because Pakistan is such a wonderful proxy for China, as long as the hostility between India and China persists, so Pakistan is a wonderful proxy. It has sort of sold itself to China for various things like money and trade and loans, etc. So that is one factor that will always cast a shadow over India-China relations. Also, apart from the boundary issue. So
Right.
I think what is happening now is, basically going back to the status quo. I would add another factor that
Sure.
during Operation Sindoor, what we noticed about China's very, very intimate involvement in helping Pakistan. So Pakistan is a permanent factor, and China is not going to abandon Pakistan. So we
Okay.
know that. And so we basically have to go ahead because China is a big economic power, apart from being a military power as well. But then military side we have been able to handle. But the economic side, I think, requires a reset, as you say, because we have a trade imbalance with China, almost $100 billion. Plus we import certain very crucial things that China has tried to turn on the screw by denying to us. For example, APIs or fertilizer imports or the tunnel boring machines, etc. So I think that is not in our interest, economic interest. Also, we want to make in India. We want to, as PM said in Japan, make in India, make for the world. I would add, make in India, make for India, and also make for the world.
Right.
So I think we need that investment from China because China has the extra funds. And since we had stopped the investment or had regulated it to a large extent, we need to move on from there. Because Chinese investments do want to come because they do see India as a large, flourishing market with a skilled population.
Right.
Or at least certainly a section of very skilled population.
True.
So I think that is also attractive for any investor when investing in a country will look at these things and say, look, can I get any return out of my investment? I mean, nobody puts in money for free. So I think those are some of the factors which are also moving this relationship forward.
Fair enough. Ambassador, since you referred to the bilaterals, I have to ask you this because Western governments and Western media in particular are closely watching the three leaders of Russia, India and China who will be present at the SCO summit. Now, their meeting comes at a time of increasing friction between them, these three, and the West led by the US. Now, there is already some talk about a potential revival of the RIC Trilateral. Would India like to see it happen?
Well, RIC again is a consultative kind of platform, and we are of course part of it. But then we also are part of BRICS, we are part of SCO, and we are part of several other regional organizations. That India has always felt that we should be in there rather than out of it. So I think these moves are also being seen from at least our perspective or the Asian perspective as hedging bets against the West, whereas the West is seeing that an erosion of its hegemony in terms of for example, Trump had threatened that he will impose more sanctions on BRICS countries if they move forward with the BRICS currency, which of course it hasn't happened because it was not a very serious kind of proposal. But then if BRICS countries start trading in their own currencies, then the dollar's erosion will further continue. Although it has eroded because many countries are now trading in other currencies. Now the sanctions, because one of the reasons why there is this kind of a looking for a separate way of trading is because of the weaponization of the dollar.
Right.
sanctions that you won't be allowed to use the dollars for international trade. So and most of the trade is done in international dollars, it being the sort of kind of international currency. Now that itself, people are, I think, many of the countries now resenting that when America weaponizes this. For example, the way it has weaponized tariffs, totally sort of subverting the World Trade Organization rules and the world order on trade, at least that they. Otherwise, they are very happy in publicizing the liberal global order, etc., which of course has now in terminal decline because of what Trump has done.
True.
So a new order is probably going to emerge out of all this churning.
Fair enough. And finally, Ambassador, before we let you go, how do you look at the outcomes of the Prime Minister's visit to Japan?
I think it has been a fantastic outcome because of the amount of investments and the Japanese have always been deeply invested in India. I mean, I last count, I think there were more than 1,000 Japanese companies in India working. And Japan recently also, has helped India in many ways in terms of investments, in terms of infrastructure development, the bullet train, for example. And of course, the ubiquitous Suzuki, the cars that we see on the streets every day. So that itself shows how much deep the connections are with Japan. With Japan, we don't have any irritations. We have been friends since the Second World War, when Japan and India, India had reached out to Japan in terms of, to show its hand, to cooperate, etc. So I think Japan has responded, and I think Indian-Japanese relations are on a upward track. Japan itself is also worried about Trump's, tariff war, although it has done a deal. But recently, you may have read that the Japan refused to cancel the visit of a Japanese team which was there to discuss investment.
Right.
Because Trump wants, I think, $600 billion of investment in America. But this visit hasn't gone through. So obviously, there are problems there as well.
Indeed. Right, we leave it there, Ambassador. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your perspectives with our viewers in India and around the world. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.